What is about this concrete virus, which is so highly threatening, the coronavirus?
We have a different audience now because we're facing the audience, the public as a whole. We need to discuss this again. A fact that the coronaviruses have been well known to science for a long time, for more than 60 years. And it's obvious that this will not change overnight or within a year. They will stay out there. The virus does what it always has done. Some people fall ill, other people develop complications. It's always been the case, and all the figures indicate that this has not changed. What has changed is people's situation. There are more suicides, there are more consequences of the lockdowns, there are more people with depression, children who need psychiatric treatment because they have phobias. Those are not a consequence of the pandemic, but by the wrong measures taken by politicians. So people are afraid because they see people going around with masks everywhere. If we tell them that you must not use these wares anymore, then they're out of the picture.
How would you assess the fourth wave? The resigned government had just, with fear of a fourth wave, they do 2G in Berlin. Only the vaccinated and the tested can go shopping and go into the restaurants.
All we know, all the data we have, speak in favor of the coronavirus not having changed in the level of threat. So, even if gain-of-function viruses have escaped from a laboratory, they don't have a big opportunity of spreading across the world, because if they are harmful, they kill their hosts or disable them so that they can't spread. So dangerous viruses are self-limiting, so nobody needs be afraid. So by summarizing this, and I say, okay, the case is the number of people who test positive are increasing again. Okay, so far so good, but I think that very much speaks in favor of an even lower mortality. Forecasts are very tricky, particularly when they refer to the future, as Mark Twain said. But I don't think that we will have any significant figure of people who die from COVID-19 anymore. I'm I'm coming from industry. I've worked in a big company. I have to say that I'm surprised that there's this cavalier approach to data.
Okay, so one thing is, and we've had this presented here in the committee, that sometimes the figures are over 1 year old and feed into current news. And the second is that it's never concretely detected whether they died with or of. This to us, it's a typical behavior of a mutation. Then it is possible that it spreads quicker, it is more infectious, but the risks arising from this are neglectable. Would you confirm this?
Absolutely. I trained as a physicist, and all of this is described by differential equations. My personal view is that the risk is so low that a lockdown in the fall is absolutely not justified.
Or if they get additional influenza vaccination, that there is a cross effect here that we don't know of yet in detail, but that are assessed a real risk for vaccinated people. And we have to be very vigilant here in order to help the people affected. We will probably need hospitals that are specialized on this kind of side effect. That's something that's not been prepared for.
And so I think we can easily explain to the population that they needn't be afraid of viruses, that they can live with a normalcy that they can define by observing their environment. What we can observe is a lot of damage done to young people who have been vaccinated. That has nothing to do with the viruses. That has to do with the genetic manipulation that has been applied to millions of people, which I, however, observe with great concern. And we have to think about how we can help those people.
Mr. Drosten had published two things with the help of the WHO, that there is so-called asymptomatic infection, everybody walking around without any symptoms potentially could be infected and dangerous.
That for a while, that somebody out of the blue, without any symptoms, gets the idea, approaches his physician, and the physician says, "Take your seat, what's the problem?" And the patient says, "No, I don't know anything. So what's your complaints?" "Well, I don't have any." And that is what happens in Germany. If you don't have any complaints, you perform this PCR test, and that's how this case was discovered at the time. I'm a surgeon, really, so I'm not really a specialist on this, but I'd say no, that doesn't happen, particularly not with an infection.
And this is why China conducted a big study to find this out, and they examined people who were healthy, and there were a high number with positive PCR tests, and so these were the people who are asymptomatic. Although positive, they were asymptomatic, and it was checked whether they had affected somebody, over 1,000 people, and none of them did that. And I think there's no better proof of that. So I think you can forget about this. Yeah, that was the one with 10 million probants, 1,000 positive.
There are numerous mutants, there are thousands of them. And only the most frequent ones prevail, but that doesn't mean it's something very specific. Children and young adults, as I heard, saw many statistical analyses from the US that they have no infectious risk, they don't spread it. There were 4 children who died in Germany within the course of this pandemic, and 2 had serious prior diseases.
And the dark ones, dark gray, that's the elderly people, so this is the ages, so you see below, the 14-year-olds have nothing, they never get to hospital. The 0 to 4 is mainly the infants with RSV viruses. There's some cases here that are severe, but that often includes complications that with newborn or infants, other conditions lead to the severeness here. The normal adult population is here, nothing changed over all of the years, and is not more or less cases in the 70 sentinel hospitals. It's not only one that reports here, but it's the same hospitals reporting, and that's why it is comparable. And as I'm at it, we see the intensive care beds here, the occupation is the same, and even if we had corona cases in the intensive care, nothing changed at the top. So that was the tests, and some of them had been relabeled at the same time. The beds have been reduced, the number of beds,